because what a lot of people what I see struggle with in the beginning is there's a sense of entitlement.
Sure.
And so of being able to step into a place of humility and say, this is part of, because the desire is so strong, like you said, there's so many paths. This is the path that at least I want to give my all.
No matter what, if you have a goal and you set it and then you achieve it, like instantly your goalpost extends. It's not like you stop there. I mean, again, it's great to like hang out at home and watch movies, but there's a point when you're like, all right, I got to go outside.
Or put here on earth to give value some way, somehow.
Yeah.
And when you tap into that and you align it with this passion, I think that's where our purpose starts to reveal itself in whatever season we're in.
Welcome to the Recovery Roundtable podcast, where the journey to sobriety opens up through powerful discussions and shared experiences. Join your host, Mark, who will bring you stories of triumph and resilience from the heart of Pacific Shores recovery. Every episode offers insights and support, guiding you through the challenges of addiction recovery. Thank you for joining our community. If you're ready to start or continue your recovery journey, we're here to inspire and support you. Let's explore recovery together.
If you don't mind sharing who you are, where you're from, and then we'll just kind of go in of your story and what that looks like.
Yeah,
and
great, man.
See if we can't make some magic happen.
I love it. So my name's Jon Brewer. I'm a film producer and entrepreneur. I own a marketing company and soon a hot sauce company that's coming out.
And you brought your hot sauce, so I want to put it here so people could see that. So why don't you tell us what it is and where they can find it?
So it's not released yet. This is coming this year.
Ooh, so I got the good stuff.
This is super special. In fact, these are specially white labeled for my marketing company. They're don't even have the branding and everything. So
okay.
You guys you're very early to the game, but I have had a passion for this. I found out just prior to COVID, kind of on a tangent here, that I really, really like gardening. I never thought that was going to be a hobby that came up, and I just started growing things, and I like peppers, and they had all these weird exotic ones, and I ordered a bunch of seeds, and I just started kind of growing all this stuff, and I was having a blast doing it. At one point I came in with this huge pepper harvest, and I looked at my wife and I'm like, I don't even know what to do with all this. Like I'm playing in the garden. Like there was no end game. And she's
so
like,
you're really farm to table.
Yeah. I mean, wow. I'm buying the peppers now.
Okay.
As we get into that one, just because like I can't keep up with the thing. But that's how it all started. Was me just growing peppers just for fun. And then from there, my wife was like, well, you should try making sauce. And I played around in the kitchen for a couple weeks and had some fun with it. And I made one sauce in particular that you're going to get to try here. And our friends and relatives were like, why isn't this being bottled? And so funny enough, I was like, okay, well, this would be a fun thing to do with the kids, like on the weekends at a farmer's market. And then you dive into the entrepreneurial rabbit hole and you realize that, it's an acidified food. There's special classes. I had to get process control certified. And what became something that was like, I'm going to do this on the weekend in my kitchen is now like, I have 17 sauces developed and we're going to launch like an actual like full tie-in with this, and I have the whole sauce company is built on movie parody, and so it ties in with what I do with the film and marketing worlds anyway. So it's just kind of another flavor in that same zone.
From movie producer to hot sauce connoisseur.
Right? Who would have ever thought? But that show Hot Ones has really paved the way. The crossover can be done.
I think my son. That's the one where they tried the different hot sauce. Okay, my son likes that show. I've yet to watch it. I'm like, I enjoy a nice hot sauce, but I'm not like, give me the ghost pepper, put me on fire, and I'll see you in a few days. I want to taste my food too.
So I think you'll enjoy this. I focus on using really hot peppers like ghost peppers, but in limited quantity, so it doesn't like overpower the flavor. Because a lot of times when you get those really hot sauces, it's just all pepper flavor, and you're like, well, that's neat, but that's not. So this really accentuates some of the mango and pineapple and some of the little more tropical flavors that are in there, but without getting it too hot. Because I'm with you. I like to enjoy my food. I like a nice kick, but I want to taste what I want to be able to taste dessert,
So how did you get into the film world?
So funny enough, I growing up in the 90s in the skateboard culture, that's really where it all kind of started. Doing filming skating with friends and doing photography and wanting to do that, and then realizing early on that being a filmer in the skate community, I was limited by three major factors. One, I'm not a very good skateboarder. I love it. It's a true passion of mine, but like it is purely for enjoyment. Let's just put it that way. There's no sponsorships in my history or future. So with that said, I was like, okay, so you have to be a pretty good skateboarder, especially with the pros, because those guys can rock it. So just to be able to keep up with them as a filmer, you kind of have to be on a level. So that's strike one.
Okay.
Strike two is it's a very cliquey bunch, and typically the pros are filming their other friends that are pros. Like, it's not necessarily like they put, Craigslist ads out for camera guys. So that was strike two. I just didn't really have a bunch of
the Craigslist that you want to stay away from.
Yeah.
It says, I'm a director, videoer. I'll come to your house.
Yeah, we're gonna try and dodge those exactly. So with that said, that wasn't really a path because I didn't really know enough pros that invited me to film. And then strike three, I think, was that there's just not a real huge financial filmer in being a skateboard videographer. Like, I think it's a means to an end, but it definitely wasn't where you land at the end of your career. Yeah. So with kind of all that information, I was like, well, you know what I really want to do is I want to make these other videos. And at the time, all the music videos that were out on MTV and all that.
When they played music videos.
Yeah, so that I wanted to make music videos and skate videos. And so I kind of just dove into that as a passion and was shooting, music videos with friends and photography on my own. And funny enough, I was out doing some job, and my mom had gone out to lunch with one of her friends that knew me and had asked about me. She's like, "Oh, what's Jon up to?" And she's like, "Oh, he just runs around with that damn camera all over town." And she's like, "Oh, is that what he wants to do?" And she's like, my mom's frustrated, like, could it be anything that's consistent or makes money? No, we want to take the arts. Fine. But her friend happened to have gone to college with a woman that was a production manager in the film world. And little did I know it, when my mom came home, she didn't tell me till the next day, but I had gotten my first job from that meeting. And so I got a chance. Yeah, go mom all the way. So I had gotten a chance to work on my very, very first music video, and this is in January of 2001. And so I took a crazy road trip with one of my skateboard buddies. We had, I think, $50 between the two of us in his gray Nissan Pathfinder that only one door worked, so you had to Luke Duke it in through the window. It was fantastic. So we take a trip with the two of us dum-dums all the way down to Los Angeles from Sacramento with $50 to our name. That's not enough to cover gas, just to be clear, even back when gas was still $2, So we make it down on this wild road trip. We skateboard and sleep in the car and have fun in LA, and then it's time for me to show up the next day for the music video. So after sleeping in the parking lot of the Hustler Casino and sharing a meal at the hometown buffet, I managed to make it to set, and we had rented out the entire Bonaventure Hotel to turn into a nightclub, and I was greeted by the production manager.
So this wasn't like some small thing. This was actually
So I didn't even know until I showed up what the job was, and as I walk into the Bonaventure Hotel, 3 stories of it have been turned into a nightclub, and it is for Usher's "You Don't Have to Call" music video. And that is my very first introduction into the film world, is this massive budget music video with Little X directing, and like all these celebrities and dancers and just every production toy and tool that you could possibly imagine. And 18-year-old me was hooked. I was just like, I don't know what exactly is going on here, but I want to do it.
Talk about divine direction.
Yeah, and so it just like, that was the thing, and that's what really like anchored it. Like, okay, so this is 100%. I'm on the right path. This is what I want to do. But then comes the hard part, because you've seen this door has opened and this possibility of what my future and career could be. But now how do I connect this? I know one person, I've gotten one job, and I have yet to prove myself that I'm competent to do any of this stuff. I also live in Sacramento. So I'm 18 years old and I don't have a car. So there's a lot of really limiting factors, but basically through just positive attitude and working my butt off on that, and basically being like, I will do anything to get another one of these opportunities. The production manager, she's like, great. She's like, I can teach you how to do anything on the film set, but I can't teach enthusiasm. So I'd love to have you back sometime. And so for the next year of my world, I worked I worked some kind of dodgy restaurant jobs up in Sacramento and paid for my way to get these last minute calls to PA commercials and music videos. And because it's a PA and a low tier, it's unskilled labor for the most part, they don't exactly give you notice. So I would be getting notice the day before to come down to LA to come work this thing. And with no car, that meant that I would basically like get a call at like, 3, 4 in the afternoon to be on set the next day at 7 a.m. I would take myself down to the Sacramento bus station, buy a bus ticket, do the overnight trip down, basically sleep on the bus. It landed in Los Angeles just a little bit before 6 a.m. at 7th and Figueroa, and I would skateboard from wherever I was from downtown to where the location was.
So you were committed.
Oh, I was full commit. In fact, one of these times wound up being a Wyclef Jean and Claudette from City High music video called Two Wrongs. And one of the filming locations was at the top of Beverly Hills. And so I got down there. I think this one landed about 4:30 in the morning, and I skateboarded from downtown LA to the very tippy top of Beverly Hills in order to make my call time. So it was full commitment, and I did that for like a full year. No car, just coming down here. And after each one of those jobs, the PA rate at the time was about $150 to $200 a day. It'd be a 2-day job, and then I'd have to put myself up in a hotel, or I would sleep in a car or wherever I could figure out. And I typically, after bus ticket and everything, was in the hole about $100 to $150 after doing each one of these jobs.
So you were paying for the education.
So it was like paying to play. Like they were paying me to do the job, so it wasn't like they were trying to. The production wasn't coming at me to pay, but like the only path that I could figure out to get into this was this was it. This was my only way in. So like, how do you turn these opportunities down? I'll never get this shot again, or at least that's
that's what so many people miss is, especially because of the glamour side of social media, is they think you step in and then the C parts because you are you. We all think and then all of a sudden when they find out there's guys like you that are paying out of pocket to get the experience, to be at the place, to get the reps in, with this idea of someday I'll be able to do this, but right now I'm doing it for the love. And you transition that from the production side and film and video. This episode is brought to you by Pacific Shores. We have been an industry leader for over 25 years in the mental health and addiction space. We have helped thousands and thousands of individuals and families reclaim their lives. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please reach out so we can do this together. Our number is 949-749-7317. So, hot sauce, so you can apply that no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's we've met through Dan Martell's elite community, and I take a lot from that, and I think exactly to what you just said, like getting the reps in is really, no matter what industry you're in, there's a level of like you're just not going to be good at it until you've had some times at bat. And I mean, there's people that are naturally gifted at things and that can, just kind of jump into things a little bit quicker. But like at the end of the day, anybody that really takes their career seriously and is in it for the long haul is going to go through a series of doing some reps of some mediocre work or some things. In fact, there's an Ira Glass video or an audio thing that he does one time, and he talks about like how most people, in order to do really great creative work, and he's speaking mostly about like writing and what his profession was, but it really applies to everything. And he talks about this thing about how you just have to do an uncomfortably huge volume of work, and like your work when you start out isn't going to be that good. It's not going to be, you have this great taste, but it's not going to match it. And it takes those reps in order to match your ability to get to where your taste is. And
we see that so often. We teach our clients here is not even just you're not going to be that good. It's you're going to suck at first.
Yeah.
When you can put your mind around anything we do new, because it's new, we don't understand the mechanics, we don't have the reps, you're going to suck. And the idea isn't to get good. The idea is to suck a little less.
Right.
And so when we have that expectation, it's kind of like, oh, I'm failing. Yes, that's good. the more you fail, the more you suck, the less you're going to suck more and more. And then this is how you start carrying this over into anything from actual tangible jobs, but also to the mental health and addiction side, which is what we do.
Yeah, no, that's I couldn't agree more. And the practice in anything, and just and also being willing to be really uncomfortable for a while, because I think that's part of it too, is being able to, like, really successful entrepreneurs in my experience are people that are able to sit with that discomfort for a long period of time, knowing that there's another side to it.
Do you feel like that's kind of becoming a lost art from the time we were kind of growing up?
Like, yes and no. I think that we're in a really interesting time, because I think that we're leaving a time of the specialist and we're entering a time of the generalist. Like, in the way that this AI technology is coming into things, a lot of those things that were really specialty to do, and applying that to the film industry, you look at things like VFX and some of these things that these AI tools are making simpler or different, or it's truncating some of the workload, or you're looking at, like, traditional marketing things and like how pipelines and funnels are built out. Like, a lot of the automation tools are making that happen really quickly. But what we're seeing is the emergence of things that are really valued in the workplace is somebody that can be a problem solver and that can look at more than just their one wheelhouse of, like, how to solve these problems. And I think that's something that kind of, like, levels the playing field for everybody, just because all these tools are coming out, and it's happening. It's just happening so fast. And
I just saw the video the other day. I don't, was it 2021 or 2, where the first AI video was Will Smith eating the spaghetti, and his eyes are all over, and it's
fingers,
they're showing. I think it's only been 4 or 5 years, but it shows year by year of how much better it's getting and faster. And the most recent one of, I think it was last year in 2025, I couldn't tell if it was real or fake.
Yeah.
And that's just over a couple of years. So yeah, the speed is incredible.
And it's only going to get better. And I think, but again, it takes the type of, like, creative problem solving, because, like, there's a lot of people that are like, it's over, there's films no more. And it's like, I think that in some sense that's true, in that the traditional way of making things is changing. But the creative possibilities are 10x what they used to be, because it used to be impossible. Oh, well, we can't shoot on the moon, all the equipment and things. And it's like, well, now you can actually, like, render that somewhat in real time. And looking even further in the future, like, the ability to do, and this is, who knows when this will happen, but, like, technology and rendering speeds that allow for, like, choose your own adventure movies. Or imagine,
I used to love those books.
Yeah,
do you remember those from the 80s?
Totally. Or imagine if, like, you and I went to go see the new Avengers movie or whatever, and you put on your VR glasses, only, like, I get to be Iron Man and you get to be Wolverine or whatever, because you can now put yourself in them with some augmented reality. And I mean, crazy. All this is, like, sci-fi right now, but I like to look at the positives of, like, what this new technology could create that just wasn't ever possible, because, like, you couldn't render a whole new CG thing in real time 10 years ago. That wasn't even, it's a silly conversation, and now you're like, whoa, well, maybe at some point that could happen. So it's cool.
So how did you make the transition of paying for the education to kind of that next step? Because that's where I think a lot of people miss. They're like, okay, you pay, but what you're doing now, how did you fill that gap?
So, I mean, it really came down to just tenacity. I mean, not giving up. And I think that's one of the, funny, what was it? Seth Rogen had a really good one. Speaking of the film industry, he's like, well, sometimes it takes a really long time to make it, but if you keep trying, you have a shot. And he's like, but if you quit, you definitely don't have a shot. And I think that's, again, that applies to everything, but especially in something that's very difficult to get into, like the film industry. It's, you got to just keep trying. And I can tell you that my path coming from a PA to becoming a producer was littered with obstacles like that. In fact, every time you want to go and upgrade, what I found to be true, and I know this isn't for everybody, there's a lot of different paths to make it, so to speak, in Hollywood, but what I found is every time I went up a rank, I went down in frequency and scale of work.
That's a great, that hits hard. Will you say that again? Because I think that's
very profound. Every time I went up in rank, I went down in frequency and scale of work, which essentially, to elaborate on that a little bit, is that when I moved from a PA to being an assistant director, I got lower tiered projects that paid a little less and they weren't quite as frequent. And then I had to grind that out for a while, and then I would get up on that level. And then when I moved from being a second assistant director to being a first assistant director, I went down in scale and down in frequency, but I leveled up my title, and then you work that title up. Same thing when I started producing. I'd been on huge sets. I'd done really big stuff. I'd been right next to the producer that did all these things. I knew how to run it. And I think my very first producing job, the total budget was like $1,500 for the whole shoot, and we had cast. It was like, wow. You know, I mean, it was a tiny little like short project, but it's like that was the best thing I could get. And I did well with that one, and then I used that one to showcase that, hey, look, I can do what I say I did. And then it took, you know, several more years to build up enough projects. And then same thing, I did that with commercials and music videos, and then I wanted to get into features, and I took really crappy features. And then that, you know, and I mean, I like to think those movies are cool because we made them done. But like, again, as far as like budget and scale and difficulty, like couldn't have been harder, couldn't have had less money, and couldn't have had the deck stacked against it. But you show success with one of those and you get the opportunity to do a bigger one. So, you know.
So you hit on something incredible of there's a level of learned, I guess you could say, humility. Because what a lot of people that I see struggle with in the beginning is there's a sense of entitlement.
Sure.
And so of being able to step into a place of humility and say, this is part of, because the desire is so strong, like you said, there's so many paths. This is the path that at least I want to give my all. And so as you ranked up, less frequency, less scale, and having the humility to say, this is part of this journey. Now, was there a way that you were able to enjoy that process? So you're looking at it process-wise versus just kind of the end destination mindset?
So it's funny because I think that, like, especially working in the creative world, like the process is really enjoyable. Like that making the jobs, and I think that's what I've found that's even true at this point in my career is I really like doing the work. I don't really like getting the work. Like the politics and the conversations and the lunches that connect, and they're super important because this is how you find whether you want to work with that person, whether this is a good fit, whether you believe in the project. Like all this is really necessary steps, and it's what congeals it in the end. But like leading up to it, like I like to do the work. I like to do the creation. And so I get a lot of satisfaction about like, you know, being on set, putting the pieces together, dealing with the fires as they come up. That like really lights my fire. But I think I still to this day have to like really buckle down and be like, okay, I'm gonna send this out to all these people. I'm gonna redo my 2026 reel just so that everybody knows what I just worked on, and you know, get ready for the next project. And that's always a battle, you know?
Yeah, it's tough because there's so many sides, and this is probably, at least just because it's fresh in my mind, it seems to be one of the most overused cliches of, well, if you love what you do, you're never going to work a day in your life. And I remember hearing that, I'm like, that's such BS. It sets you up for failure, but it's like, no, there's going to be days, even if you love what you do, there's still days where you're like, okay, this sucks.
Oh no, I would anybody who said that hasn't worked in the world or paid bills or things. Like I would say that I used to joke that work's inherently bad or they wouldn't pay you to do it. I mean, because if we all had our choice, we'd be hanging out on the beach with our families or, you know, going surfing or whatever it is that you're into. And I mean, I really love what I do, the creative passion of it all, but like almost always the jobs don't have quite as much money as they need. There's some piece that's missing and there's some creative solution. And so I try and look at it. I had the person that worked for me for a really long time. He looked at me one day and he's like, I get you. And I was like, what? And this was something I didn't even realize about myself. He's like, you like to solve puzzles. And I was like, huh. I'd never really thought it like that. But I think that's where I get the most satisfaction on a day-to-day is like, oh, I do. I like to put these kind of mental puzzles together and models of like how these productions are going to play out and foresee the thing. Like that's really enjoyable to me. Yeah. But like with that comes all the problems that create it to be a puzzle in the first place. So you kind of have to take the good with the bad. And I think I've really learned to look at that like, well, there's going to be challenges. Things are going to go wrong, but that's kind of what makes it fun. Yeah. But also don't focus on those or it's going to eat you, you know? So finding that balance, and then like also a learned skill of multitasking, I think is the producer's like gold, you know, and being able to filter what needs to happen next versus like, you know, what can get pushed down the road a little. So.
Yeah. And so in the beginning, I think most people inherently understand you got to grind. It's going to be tough. There's going to be days where you're paying out of pocket, sitting on a bus overnight to get to what is you want to do. What I think a lot of people miss is they think once we get to this destinational or this desired destination, that all of life gets so easy. What are some of the challenges that you see now as incredibly successful that you can kind of share of individuals that either are starting a career or maybe in their career making a jump of just knowing like no, it never gets easy. Like that's kind of the beauty of doing puzzles.
I think if it gets easy, you're not challenging yourself, and what's the fun in that? I mean, I think that's what it really gets down to, because no matter what, if you have a goal and you set it and then you achieve it, like instantly your goalpost extends. It's not like you stop there. I mean, again, it's great to like hang out at home and watch movies, but there's a point when you're like, all right, I got to go outside. You know what I mean? And like,
I'm gonna go make one now.
Yeah, but like in that moment of like, you know, I can't do this, I need to get out and contribute to the world. I think we are all like hardwired in our souls to like want to give something back in some way, just to be like. I'm a big believer that we're all connected. Like intrinsically, there's no separation of people, and whatever that is spiritually for every different person out there. Like, but I think that connection is what makes us compelled to want to help others, to be part of a community. And I think that if you just sit at home, eventually it wears tired, and then you create a new goal for yourself. And whether that goal's positive or destructive or what you actually shape is, you know, depends on the person and what their background is. But no matter what, there's no destination. It's just the journey. And like trying to see how big a destination you can get. Like I like to think of impossible destinations that I could never, ever, ever get to, you know, or ones that are like so absurd that you're like, I don't know, that's realistic, but you're like, okay, but like, what's falling short of that look like? You know, like because you know, there's only so many, you know, Avengers movies being made. There's only so many people that are going to get those jobs in the world. But like, why not swing for it if that's what you want? You know, like you might not ever get it, but I bet you'll do some really cool projects on your way to not doing an Avengers movie. And like that might be where the real art shines through. You know what I mean? Like maybe you weren't meant to do the Avengers movie, you know, not that that's my thing. I really want to make Die Hard 9 if I'm going to be totally honest, but
that's awesome. Well, I might be able to introduce you. Actually, one of the actors from that movie went through our program years and years and years ago and got his life back on track and is actually, like you're saying, paying it forward now and is back into acting and is doing just so many wonderful things. So
I love that.
He actually still talks to a lot of the people. So I'll put you guys in contact. Just remind me after this.
I will. I will for
sure.
You
guys up.
Yeah.
So interesting you said Die Hard. And for me, that's still one of the best Christmas movies of all time. My wife will argue it's not a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's a Christmas movie.
So I can now tell my wife, listen, I've talked to multiple people in the industry, and they all agree unanimously. It's a Christmas movie.
Yep.
So one of the things you said that was intriguing is, how do you keep the motivation of setting an impossible target? Because I feel like there's this in-between of, when you reach for the stars, it's exciting, but when you're doing huge stuff, failure is almost guaranteed. So how do you keep that fine balance between staying motivated to achieve something that seems impossible while not giving up?
So, and this is something that I really try and frame for my kids too, because it's something that I think is really important, is that I don't think that there is such a thing as failure if you can look at it right. Like you can allow yourself to feel failure, and like you do sometimes have those inevitable feelings, but really all failing is an opportunity to learn. And I think it's an old Thomas Edison quote that's cliche as it is, but he's like, I didn't fail 1,000 times at making a light bulb. I learned, 999 ways not to do it. Or it's some version of that. It's really cheesy, but like I really like that, because I think that like, just because one thing doesn't work out, and especially in the creative world, like even when projects have worked out well, it doesn't necessarily mean they're what you wanted them to be, or that your vision matches, what it is. There's always something that you can go back and be like, if I'm totally honest and I look at my career, it's like I could have improved every one of my projects in some way, knowing what I know now, but I didn't. And so that's with the growth thing. But now I get to look at that as a learning area to be able to make the next project better. Or, oh, I won't make that mistake again. Or, man, if only we'd had the whatchamacallit on set that day, we could have saved ourselves time, money, problem. What, you know what I mean? And so, each one of them becomes like a stepping stone to being able to do the next thing. And I think that I think it's really cool because you look back at your career and you see all these places and you can actually see your growth. And when you look at your growth versus the detriment of what you don't have, it's really empowering. So you can again, it's really just about where you shift your focus. If you make this huge goal and you're like, I'm not on the moon yet, and you're like, well, yeah, that's disappointing. But if you take that same huge goal and be like, oh, I'm headed to the moon. By the way, do you remember when I was down there, whatever that metaphorically is, and seeing that gap of where your skill sets come and how much you know now and how I find this a lot. I do. I've just started doing an online, a coaching thing. I do some office hours for a production company once a week for new filmmakers to kind of come and ask questions of projects that they have, people that don't have the money necessarily to get real producer support, but want to make their things happen. And one of the things that comes up in that a lot is just how is it that I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
you're talking about your weekly where people will come in.
I was just trying to think. I was trying to think what we were framing it right before that. I kind of lost there, but I'll come back to it.
That's all right.
So either way, that's
so. One of the questions I have is: have you ever done anything that actually flopped, or didn't get the outcome you're looking for? Whether it was a movie or a video where it just kind of fell dead, and how did you deal with that?
So, unfortunately, I've had that happen a few times. I can speak to one particularly. There was a very, very, very large budget music video I did, which I can't really speak about because it never got released. And it was with a very large director that did that music video. Huge creative ambitions, huge amount of spend, really beautiful video, gorgeously shot, really well choreographed. And through a creative decision, that the director and the basically the talent, I think there was a bit of a cultural difference as far as understanding, not wanting to challenge the director's vision, so to speak, from kind of a cultural, the way that played out in this scenario was, I think they were being respectful of what his vision was. Mm-hmm. And I think that in the subtlest, but kind of not so subtle ways, they were trying to tell him that they didn't like that vision. Mm-hmm. And we went ahead because he was assured them it was going to be great. And we proceeded with a line of shooting that didn't line up with what they wanted for their brand. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, it's a real bummer because that entire project, I mean, you're talking about a $700,000 video shelved. You know what I mean? It's a lot of money to be wasted. And for me, it's a real bummer because it was a big artist. It would have been really, cool thing to get to show, good thing to get to show in the reels, and all this amazing footage and all that effort is for nothing, and because of kind of a preventable communication issue, but I think, sometimes egos and things are on the line and you can't sway those conversations. And I look at that as, again, a learning experience of well, man, how could I have done that differently? If I'm really honest, I don't know if I could have steered that one differently, but it's one of those ones that sits with me. I'm like, man, that would have been great. It's a great video.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, and that's interesting because there's so much in life and there's so much we can pull from this analogy, but it's you can't guarantee the outcome in life, but you can, I wouldn't say guarantee, but you can influence your part that you create. But mm-hmm. just because you do the work doesn't mean it's going to make it. A lot of times they get shelved. And so one of the biggest things is how to get up that next day, that next week, mm-hmm. not tied to what was, but what is, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, I agree. And I another one that comes up a lot in the producing world, and actually in what I do in the marketing world as well, is, and this is one that I've always been frustrated with, but the endless amounts of times that you bid for projects that never happen. And that's just the nature of the creative world. You gotta put the money up to show whether you can pull the creative off for the price. But the amount of time that I have spent spinning wheels on really cool creative that got gobbled up by somebody else that promised they could do it for less, and then you find out later that they did it for twice as much as you promised in the first place, and you're just like... those ones, I think those ones are the hardest because you're like, I could have done that. You guys didn't give me the shot, you know. But you got to keep taking the shots because eventually they do work, and you turn one in, and then they say, yes, we do want you to do this project, and then you do the best you can with it. So
it sounds like you haven't internalized it as you as much as the work you do. And do you think that plays a factor with the resiliency and you continuing to grow and do more and more?
I think that I don't think that you can, you know, I think you should always take your artistic endeavors personally and how you can improve them. But like, it's not a mark of your character if they go wrong. And like, sometimes projects just suck. Like, it's bad people, it's bad creative, a combination of the two. I mean, you know, you've met that guy at the deli before that you bumped into each other and you just don't like him and he's giving you mean mugs while you're paying for your soda and you're just like, I don't know what that dude's deal is, but like that happens in the work world in any job you're in. There's always that one guy and so some projects are just like that. Some are doomed before they even start, and sometimes you agree to things before you see the whole scope. And it's, you know, learning to navigate that. Like every time you do one wrong, you learn how to do it better next time.
Yeah.
So it's, you know,
it's this continual cycle of learning and going. Well, yeah. I know a lot of people, at least in my world, associate Los Angeles, Hollywood with drugs, alcohol, partying, all these different things. How are you able to either steer clear of that or to be able to work with some of the big people and still continue to keep it professional?
You know, it's funny. That's I didn't always steer clear of it. You know, I definitely, since, you know, I have two small daughters, so you know, since having kids, like I don't have time for any of that noise. And as you get into your 40s, like I just, my body wouldn't sustain partying like I did in my 20s, nor do I really want that anymore. Like and I think that some of it was in my 20s when I was young and on the come up. I was partying and doing all that stuff, and if I'm really honest, like it tremendously set my career back. But I also think there's something to be said about, like, I've gotten that out of my system, and there's no fear of missing out. Like, I did it. Like, you see all the people go to the rap parties and get too drunk now, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. I remember what that was like, and it's kind of easy to just blow off now. But when you're in it, like, and you're in that age, it's like it's very present. I mean, it's like, you know, being in any sort of music or creative world. There's a lot of people that are in and out of that kind of world, and like, you know. Hopefully you're somebody that can navigate through it. Like I said, I mean, me personally, like, I could have been a lot further in my career had I not done all those things. But I think Alex Hormozy said this, and I thought it was really interesting. He's like, basically, he was like, I think in some ways you spend your 20s gaining life experience and your career suffers, or you spend your 20s working on your career and get really ahead and your life experience suffers, or maybe some balance in between the two. And I'd like to think that I found a little bit of a balance, because I still was able to keep my career on track and grow a little bit, but I definitely didn't fast track it the way I could have had I been all focused. But I did have all that life experience. I had all that fun, and I feel now, especially with family, it's like that's all very complete. You know, I don't have any of that like, oh man, wouldn't it be fun to stay up all night? You're like, no, I will be in bed by 10. Thank you.
Yes.
So,
10, that's late.
I know, right? Like, it's true. I meant to say 8. I didn't want to sound like too much of a fuddy-duddy here, but you know.
Well, that's funny, because so many people talk about having a morning alarm, and that's the grind culture, different things. And I remember years ago, I actually have a bedtime alarm, and that allows me to be able to wake up and to do the things that you said it so eloquently of. I feel all of us are put here on earth to give value some way, somehow. Yeah. And when you tap into that and you align it with this passion, I think that's where our purpose starts to reveal itself in whatever season we're in. And so we're able to really wake up each day, and that's the part that I love, is continually helping encourage people to say, look, if you haven't found that purpose yet, that's okay. Purpose is actually seasonal. And I know that kept me stuck for so long, thinking I can only choose one purpose. First of all, what the hell is it? And second of all, what if I choose the wrong one? Sure. And so of understanding this and letting people know of, it's so beautiful when you find what you're meant to do, even in just that season. And I don't know how long this season will last for me. Sure. We just hit 26 years.
Hey!
Knock on wood, it's been a beautiful season.
Nice.
But it's amazing that being able to wake up on a Monday so excited
Yeah.
to be able to go and say, I want to be used for good, to provide value some way, somehow. And so it sounds like you found that through the media of film, and to be able to do wonderful things. And then I think it happens with all of us. Then we find family.
Yeah.
And that just changes everything.
Family's where we really find it. I think there's nothing that even compares to my daughters in the world. Like all the film, and it's funny how that shifted, because film was everything to me. And then I had my girls, and film's cute.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you know what
I
mean?
enjoy it. It's awesome.
I sure like it a lot, but like it's no contest. And I think that too is like trying to, with that in mind, like trying to find even more purpose and ways to get back. Cause I think that like, you know, being able to entertain the world and really be able to bring creative projects to life with other creative people has been a real passion. And that is like helping people. I think that there's something a little bit self-serving in that as well, because like it's something that I really want to do, but I find now with kids in play, the things that I'm really passionate about doing are expanding, you know, like these office hours things that I'm doing, like expanding to be able to help. I have all this knowledge after all these years of doing this, so to be able to share that with people that are up and coming and like help them navigate how to bring their creative projects to life, like when they, you know, where they were when I first started producing, and also with the way of AI and how this is all going, like finding translatable skill sets for people in the film industry, because I think a lot of people have been displaced with the way that technology is going.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so many amazing skills that you learn by being a film and you know, commercial TV worker that aren't really seen other places, like from the teamwork to like the specialty tools to the being able to look at, you know, different angles of the creative. And I think that a lot of those, as we enter this AI world and the shape of the jobs is changing, like helping those people to be able to find new career paths that are still in the creative world, that still have some of that same original charge, but are able to morph into the new work environment that we're moving into. Because, you know, like it or not, AI it's here to stay.
It's always ever changing. And you said it earlier, anytime I get stuck in one set way, it's kind of like I'm setting myself up for failure. How do I continue to explore the different avenues? And it can take you in all different directions to the part where it sounds like you're giving back now and getting to talk with people.
I want to do that more. This is something that I'm really trying to, that's my big push for this year, is to like figure out how we can help more of these people and get in contact. There's more filmmakers now than there's ever been in the world, and the technology and everything has democratized filmmaking, where like, you know, again, with your iPhone and a couple halfway decent lights, I mean, we're talking sub $1,000, you can have a fairly competent shooting setup. Like, you know, I don't think you're going to be making Scorsese's next picture quite in that style, but like,
watch it gets done, you're like, oh, check that.
Yeah, right. Like, but here's
now.
the thing: at this point, like anything's possible, and like the democratization of all this technology. Like, I think there's more people than ever that aren't necessarily ever going to get the set experience like I had, because the productions are changing, but still want those core values and want to know how to make their projects, you know, how to turn that $1 into 10 on screen.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of in the AI, even in healthcare field, is so many people are saying, oh, they're going to take our jobs. And you've used the word creative so many times. And from what I've seen so far, it's not taking anyone's job. It's those that aren't learning how to use it as a thought partner and how to leverage it are starting to see some of that. And we're still like just tip of the iceberg, barely getting started with it. But what I've seen is there's something said about human creativity.
Oh yeah, it's not going, and that's the thing. That's where there was a meme that went around that I really liked, and it was right around when AI was first kind of starting to, you know, get its legs, so to speak. And it says, the AI is going to take our jobs, the one guy says, and he goes, we still have to, the creatives still have to be able to tell us what they want. Don't worry, we're safe. or like the ad agency still has to tell us what they want. And since they have no idea, as a creative, you're safe, because I think part of being a creative is navigating, like finding that thing that is the human connection. Because ultimately, like, we're all storytellers, and that's what film's really about. Whether it's in commercials or music videos, you're trying to connect with your audience on an emotional register. And it's going to take humans to navigate those waters, to navigate the nuance of what the pop culture is and how that changes, and the new slang, and like all of these AI tools are going to get better and better, and they're going to get closer and closer to synthesizing reality, but nothing is going to substitute for the pulse, the connection. And like, I think that we as creatives now become a role of like creative strategists, where we're seeing how to take more tools from a more diverse areas, like I said, kind of the age of the generalist, where you're getting to look into a larger tool basket to create these things than you were before in just a one specialty department. But it's going to create a whole series of new jobs that are framed around those things. But it's the people that are adopting and integrating with AI. It's not going to take over for you, but like everybody's saying, the people that are using AI, they're going to take over for you.
Yeah. So in this season, what is getting you so excited that you're waking up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, that your brain just continues to solve the puzzle, as you put it earlier?
So right now, I'm really, really excited. For the last 4 years, we have been there's been a project by the name of Tiger Bones. It is a kung fu action movie that is taking place in New Orleans, that we have scouted everywhere down to Argentina for with the director. We have finally gotten funding and are in the final process of casting right now, and so we are looking to go into production to that here in the second quarter of this year. So I'm really, really, really excited about that. Action is my favorite genre of movie.
Why is that?
I just always loved it. I think it goes back to like watching movies with my dad. Just, we'd get all fired up and like root for the like, get him, come on, and just like seeing the fight sequences. Like, I love the stunts. I think that was some of what really got me into this, is like doing like pyro and like explosions and car chases, and like that was always like it's just cool. And then I think from a production standpoint, setting that stuff up and those things that require big equipment probably flashes back to like when I was a kid. My dad worked for Union Pacific Railroad, and so I used to go out and see all the big trains. And so whenever we do these really big sets and we've got big condors and big trucks and stuff, like I think it's that little kid in me that's like, look at all the trucks, we got all the trucks here, or just this huge giant rig that they put up with lights hanging all off of it. Or like, I was doing an Outcast video earlier in my career, and they put a what's called a techno crane, which is an extendable crane. They put it on a Shopmaker, which is a camera car, and it was going out around the car, and you could get these 360 shots like while Andre 3000's driving. And it was just like seeing those really big pieces move, and like that happens a lot in these action movies. Like that to me is just like cool set, cool logistics, like it's fun, Dramas are great, and there's all these other movies, but I just, they don't hit the same,
Man, that resonates. When you were sharing that, I was thinking back to when I'd watch Bruce Lee movies with my dad. And then I remember being in high school when The Matrix came out, and I remember that shot where he jumps up and at 360 and comes back. Everybody lost their mind because it hadn't been done before.
Totally.
And it changed everything. Yes. And I remember thinking, I'm like, that is so cool. And that's just me as someone that enjoys cinema. I can't imagine of you getting to create it. And it's interesting. As you were sharing, I had this thought, isn't it interesting that it seems like what gets us the most excited, it's us just trying to please that little kid in us to get that. That is so awesome. I'm so happy and excited. And that's the feeling that we're going for.
It really is. It is. I'm trying to be 6 for my whole life. Like that's that feeling of like ultimate stoke. The first time you saw like, Ghostbusters or whatever, you're like, I want that. I would just want to hold on. How do we bottle that? And I think my whole life has been trying to do that. So.
That is awesome. So of course, as we mature, we learn things, and now you are getting to help people that are just starting. If you could go back into time when you were 18, 19, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, wow. So many things. I think starting with patience. It was funny because I think There's a sense, I think, whenever you do something in Hollywood that you're going to be an overnight success. That you think you're going to go and you're going to make it, and like Spielberg's going to find you in that coffee shop and you're going to get to direct $100 million movie when you're 25. Because you see people like P.T. Anderson that got to do that sort of thing, and you're like, it's possible. And you're like, it's possible. And everybody should dream big. I'm very for that. But I think the reality of it is when you get into any career, overnight is 10 years, and I think that's the real thing. And I'm 26 years into my career now, and like I'm just now starting to realize that like I think in like 10 years I'll be where I want to be. Which is cool. Like, it's like, there's been cool things, but like really getting to have like selection of projects and being a bit more choosy about who you work with and getting to do things that have like a bit more budget, pull, like it just takes time, and like, that's okay. Like, and to know that like whatever level you're on, to do it. And then I think the other thing that I would tell anybody really in any business that this has really come to me since I've started my marketing endeavors, around 2020, is learn how to market yourself, learn how to market your brand. Marketing is so important for everything that you do in every aspect of business. And I think that people put too much emphasis on like, well, it's sales and you just got to call people. And it's like, it's not. It's marketing. Sales is the transactional nature of doing it. Marketing is everything leading up to the sale and all of your customer interaction afterwards. So like focus on make it easy for people to work with you. Make it easy for people to find you. Create value wherever you can, especially in this world of attention where it's everything's getting bombarded. You're not going to get it with some random Facebook ad. You're going to get it through a war of attrition and really getting out there and having value that you can consistently put out to the world. And once you show that value, then you'll find your customers. Then you'll be able to make big building. But you have to always be putting it out there that, it's, what is it they say? You're only as good as your last project.
Yeah.
So
one of the things you said is, I think I'll be where I want to be in 10 years. What do you mean by that?
Like, I think the scale of films, like I've done a lot of independent production, and the budgets that we're working with now aren't like, we're not able to command A-list actors, some of it. So like getting to a thing like, we have a theatrical distribution coming up for this picture, it looks like. So, that's very promising, but that doesn't always happen on pictures of this scale. But like having that be baked in, you know what I mean? Like, well, of course it's going theatrical rather than that being a huge debate. Having a bit more marketing funds on the end so that you know that it's going to have some legs. Like the ability to have projects that are scaled to get to larger audiences. And with that, make more money and all the fun stuff that comes with that. But like, again, as I said earlier, as soon as I get to that goal, there's going to be one that immediately extends itself beyond whatever that is. So for right now, as I'm looking at the projection, I think I'll be where I want to be now in about 10 years. And then where that person wants to be will probably be there in about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of ever changes. But the whole point's to like see how far can we push these boundaries,
And you happen to be in a very cool medium where you can capture things on film that live to perpetuity. So I'm curious, how do you want your kids to remember you?
So funny enough, because this actually gets back to what I forgot to say earlier, and that's when you say that film lives on in perpetuity. I think that something that I've learned from film that's kind of counterintuitive, the way that we learned it, is I learned something bad from film, and that is that in the creative world, once you release something and it's out to the world, that's it, it's done. And that got really baked in my head for a really long time. And as I speak to the importance of marketing, something that happens in the rest of the business world that you don't see on the creative side is you put out a minimum viable product and then you iterate. And I think that coming from the creative world, in my early marketing efforts, for the first part of my career, I did myself a great disservice because I would hold my marketing efforts until they were perfect because I thought they only got one shot, or once I presented myself, that was it. It wasn't the way that the videos were that lived on forever. I needed to get it out there, and then I needed to just be constantly updating and changing and being out in the world. And I think that knowing the difference between those two, knowing what projects are here to stay and what ones aren't, and that what you need to continually be reinventing yourself constantly, I think that's the thing. And so when you talk about like a legacy that I'd like to leave with my kids, I'd like them to know that like there's no wrong way to do it other than not doing it. That's the wrong way. Like you got to get out there and go for it. And the world will give you feedback. They'll tell you like, that's not the way. And you're going to be like, okay, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that you need to tweak your approach. And then you keep doing that with the feedback. And that's what really creates your ability to drive customers, give them real value for what they're spending money with you. And then once you have an established customer base, then you can really grow into the things that you want to grow into. But like it takes that flexibility in marketing early on to be able to, to get to those things.
Yeah, I love that because, again, going back to the medium that we're seeing with social media, I won't say everything, but most things look so polished from day one. And it's interesting because you've referenced Spielberg a few times. It would be so interesting to see his very first filmed project to his latest blockbuster side by side to show the beauty isn't just what he's doing now. The beauty is this evolution. And it happens for all of us.
I so agree, and I say this all the time from the marketing side of things. When I'm giving clients advice about things having to do with marketing and social media, that's something I always remind people of is like, have you ever gone on a social media account you followed, scrolled all the way back to their first post and been like, damn, they suck? Like, you don't. Nobody does that. You look all the way back at Mr. Beast's very first post or whoever the person that you're into and you'd be like, wow, they've come a really long way. And even if you're like, this is trash. They used to do trash. And then you look at now and you're like how many hundreds of millions are these people worth? And you just look at it as a progression, and all the people from Dan Martell's very first content to where he is now, from, Alex Hermosi when he first started out to where he is now. And you look at all these, like, I don't think I've ever seen a social media account and judged their first post negatively. You look at the progression. And I think that's the whole thing is when you can go back and that's what always gives me perspective. Look at your own progression and that'll give you the juice to make that next leap in your life, because you have done a lot, even if you don't think you have, just being alive for years, there's growth that happens, I
remember one of the biggest things, because I never wanted to be in front of camera. I was always the person behind in business, just making sure everything was working. I remember being terrified, like, what if I say something stupid or wrong or share wrong information or the information changes? And fortunately, I've had mentors around that says, like, in the fitness realm, if you look at that, everything they've said was the opposite at one point and then redid and then redid. It's like everything's like, fruit is really good for you first thing in the morning. It's like, actually, it's terrible for you. And then it's like, well, and it's everything contradicts.
Don't eat fat. Don't eat carbs. Don't eat sugar. Wait, you're supposed to eat sugar, but you have to have a little fat. And you're just like, oh my God, I have no idea.
And what's so interesting is I remember I wrote my first book. I want to say it was like 2017, 2018.
Cool.
And I mean, reading it for me, it sucks, but it was for me. I never meant to put out to the world. But there's stuff, and I'm actually proud of this now, where I look back, I go, I don't agree with that. That's actually 180 of what I think now.
Sure.
But to see it printed, because it's permanent once it's out there, I'm like, it's actually a gift being able to have that banter with myself of, I disagree with the old version of me, and that's okay. And then, if we want to get really deep, there's probably stuff right now that the future version of me is going to come back and disagree with.
100%.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. I think of like who I am, when we talk about like, partying and like who I am and what my values are. And I think it's really funny. I joke with my wife all the time because she's like, what's our dream vacation and everything? And I'm always like, don't take this the wrong way. I just want you and the kids to go somewhere. I just want the house to myself for a week. I don't want anybody to come over. I don't want to, like, I want to turn the music up too loud. I want to stay in my underwear. Like, I just want to.
A risky business.
I just want to have the house, like, because it's funny, like what I desire now, like my most boring day in my 20s that I woke up and I didn't have anything to do and I like ate Cheerios at noon and just kind of was, just loafed around the house. that sounded miserable in my 20s. That's anything I tried to avoid. That to me sounds heavenly now. There's always kids and work and things going on. So just to have the house quiet and get to watch the show when I want to, like getting to watch an R-rated movie during daylight hours, like what? Like, this is crazy talk.
I know all the Bluey episodes, but I don't know the new film.
Yeah, like if I hear K-pop Demon Hunters one more time, I'm gonna.
That is a catchy song, I will say.
I love the songs. I love it. I still love Frozen. It's all the things, but I'm just saying, like to be able to watch a slasher film at noon and like eat like Cheerios on the couch in my robe, like. What? Like that sounds like heaven. And then when I look back and in my 20s, I'm like, that's the worst. I'd be so bored and so upset with that day. And now it's how your perception just shifts, you know?
That makes me think of Office Space where he goes, I did absolutely nothing and it was everything I thought it would be.
Totally.
Such a great quote.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that we didn't get to that you'd love to share?
Just real quick, I have something set up on my website that I'd love to share with your audience. I will give you links. I don't know how you guys post that, whatever. But there's a site, brewhaha.co. This is a marketing website for all things content, basically building the systems around the content. My Fun Bomb company really focuses on generation of the content, but this is all about like how to build your funnels, how to build the copy, and all the things that support this amazing content. But if you go on that site on brewhaha.co,
so it's brewhaha.co.
.co, correct. If you get .com, you'll find a lovely coffee shop on the East Coast, but that's not us. But if you go on there, there is a free avatar builder, and if you take 5 minutes and go on and input all the information about your company, it will build you an avatar that gives like a 3-page breakdown of head, heart, and home of all of who your target customer is and all the best ways to approach them, channels in which to approach them. It's totally free. Just come check it out. But just kind of a little gift to help everybody out so that they can target whoever their ideal customer is.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate you coming down and sharing some of your story, man. What an
thank
awesome
you so
life.
much. This is it's really beautiful. It's a pleasure to be down in sunny Orange County.
Yeah.
Always nice to come down here, you know?
Well, it's good having you, man.
Most definitely.